The city of Brookhaven was the kind of place where nothing truly terrible was supposed to happen. It had clean sidewalks, small cafes on every corner, and apartment buildings filled with people who nodded politely at each other but rarely spoke. Life moved slowly here, predictably, and that was exactly why the news hit so hard on that quiet Sunday morning. At 6:42 a.m., police cars lined the narrow street outside Pinewood Apartments. Red and blue lights reflected against the windows, waking residents who would later claim they heard nothing during the night. By noon, the story was everywhere. A woman had been found dead in her apartment. No forced entry. No weapon. No immediate suspects. Her name was Lena Brooks. Lena was 26 years old. She worked as a freelance graphic designer and lived alone on the third floor. She paid her rent on time, smiled at her neighbors in the hallway, and kept her door locked. To the outside world, she was careful. Online, she was open. As police officers moved quietly through her apartment, the air felt heavy. The place was neat but lived in. A half-finished cup of tea sat cold on the kitchen counter. A throw blanket lay folded on the couch, as if she had planned to use it later. Nothing appeared broken or disturbed. It was as if Lena had simply stopped existing in the middle of her routine. The medical examiner estimated her time of death between 3 and 4 in the morning. No one could understand how someone could enter, kill her, and leave without leaving a trace. As investigators searched for answers, the rest of the world did what it always does now. People opened their phones. Lena's social media profiles were public. Her Instagram alone had thousands of posts, stretching back years. Photos of sunsets taken from her window. Morning selfies with messy hair and tired smiles. Short captions about work stress, anxiety, and moments of quiet happiness. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She was just talking to the internet like it was a diary. Within hours of the news breaking, strangers were scrolling through her feed. Some left comments expressing shock and sadness. Others tried to piece together clues, believing that the truth had to be hidden somewhere between the pictures. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Then someone noticed a post from 2 days earlier. It was a simple photo of a wet street taken at night. The pavement reflected yellow streetlights, and the image looked calm, almost peaceful. The caption was short. Some people hide in plain sight. Before Lena's death, the post had received a few likes and casual comments. After her death, it felt different. People reread the sentence again and again, wondering if it was a warning, or a thought she hadn't fully understood herself. That alone would not have meant much. But then someone saw the comment. Buried among the messages of sympathy was a single reply posted after Lena was already dead. "You were closer than you thought." The account that posted it had no profile picture. The username was a random mix of letters and numbers. No bio. No visible posts. Just that one comment. The timestamp read 3:17 a.m. That detail made people uneasy. It fell directly within the estimated time of Lena's death. Screenshots of the comment spread fast. True crime pages reposted it. People debated whether it was a sick joke or something more sinister. Some argued it was just a troll trying to gain attention from a tragedy. The police did not see it that way. Detective Aaron Mills was assigned to the case that afternoon. He had seen enough crime scenes to know when something didn't fit. Lena's apartment didn't look like a place where violence had occurred, yet she was dead. Now there was a comment online that felt personal, timed too perfectly to ignore. Mills asked for Lena's phone and laptop to be brought in for digital analysis. He wanted everything. Messages, emails, search history, drafts, deleted files. In cases like this, answers were often hiding in places people forgot to look. As technicians worked, Mills scrolled through Lena's social media himself. He noticed patterns in her posts. She often wrote about feeling watched, though never directly. Lines like, "Does anyone else feel like routines make you predictable?" Or "Trust is harder when you notice small things." At the time, her followers had replied with heart emojis and encouraging words. Now, those captions felt unsettling. By evening, the mysterious account had deleted its comment. That made things worse. Deleting the comment meant the person behind it knew they were being watched now. The police requested data from the platform, but the process would take time. Meanwhile, something unexpected happened. Another comment appeared on one of Lena's older posts, one where she had talked about feeling safe at home. The comment was simple. Safety is an illusion. Again, the same account. Again, posted late at night. This time, people noticed immediately. Screenshots flooded social media. The account was reported hundreds of times, but it stayed online. The killer, or whoever this was, wanted to be seen. Inside the police station, tension grew. Officers debated whether they were dealing with a murderer taunting them or a deeply disturbed individual chasing attention. Detective Mills believed the truth lay somewhere in between. He couldn't shake the feeling that Lena had known something. Her last few posts were not random. They carried a tone of quiet fear, the kind someone feels when they sense danger but can't fully explain it. Mills had seen that before in victims who realized too late that someone was watching their lives too closely. Late that night, Mills returned to Lena's apartment. He stood alone in the silence, imagining her final hours. He noticed something small he had missed earlier. On her desk was a notebook, open to a blank page except for one sentence written lightly in pencil. Check the comments. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't detailed. But it was intentional. Mills photographed the page and felt a chill run through him. Lena had been leaving traces, just like the person now haunting her online presence. By the next morning, the story had grown bigger than the city. News channels picked it up. Headlines spoke of a possible killer communicating through social media. Viewers debated whether modern technology had made crime easier or harder to hide. As the attention increased, so did the activity from the mysterious account. A short post appeared on a newly created page linked to the same username. Everyone shares everything. Why be surprised when someone listens? The post went viral within minutes. Detective Mills stared at the screen, realizing something unsettling. This wasn't just about Lena anymore. Whoever was behind this wanted to make a point. They weren't hiding from the public. They were using it. The murderer had not only taken a life, they had stepped into the spotlight. And this was only the beginning. By the third day after Lena Brooks was found dead, the investigation had moved almost entirely into the digital world. Her apartment had yielded very little. No fingerprints that didn't belong to her. No signs of a struggle. No neighbors who heard anything unusual. The physical space had gone silent, but online, everything was screaming. Detective Aaron Mills sat in a dim office filled with the soft hum of computers. Multiple screens glowed in front of him, each one showing a different part of Lena's digital life. Photos, comments, likes, timestamps. To Mills, it felt less like evidence and more like a map of someone's thoughts, habits, and fears. The cybercrime unit had already pulled Lena's full social media history. Thousands of interactions spread across years. At first, it looked like noise. Random people liking posts. Friends leaving hearts and jokes. Old classmates checking in once every few months. But as the analysts filtered and sorted the data, something unsettling began to surface. There was one account that appeared again and again. Not loudly. Not obviously. It never commented on Lena's happy moments. Not on birthdays. Not on vacations. Not on photos where she smiled openly. Instead, it appeared only when her posts became quiet, uncertain, or emotional. When she wrote about anxiety. When she posted late at night. When her captions hinted at feeling watched or unsafe. The account's behavior was careful. Almost restrained. Sometimes it only liked the post. Sometimes it left a single word comment like true or exactly. Words that blended in so well that no one noticed them at the time. But now, with Lena dead, those small interactions felt deliberate. The username was still the same string of letters and numbers. No profile photo. No personal information. It was as if the account had been created for one purpose and nothing else. When the cyber unit traced its activity, they discovered something even more troubling. The account didn't just interact with Lena. It had interacted with other women too. Two names appeared repeatedly. One was a college student from a nearby city who had died the previous year under unclear circumstances. The case had been ruled accidental after a long investigation that led nowhere. The other was a single mother found dead in her home months later. Her death had been labeled a possible overdose, despite unanswered questions. Both women had active social media profiles. and both had received comments from the same account. Detective Mills leaned back in his chair when he saw the comparison laid out on the screen. The comments were different, but the tone was the same. Calm, observing, detached, as if the person behind the account wasn't reacting emotionally, but studying. One comment left on the college student's post read, "You should have trusted your instincts." Another on the single mother's page said, "People reveal more than they think." At the time, no one had connected these comments to the deaths. They were lost among thousands of others. But now, with Lena's case unfolding in public view, the pattern was impossible to ignore. This wasn't coincidence. Someone was following these women online before they died. The question was why. As the police dug deeper, they noticed another disturbing detail. The account often corrected people. If someone commented with the wrong time, the account would gently respond with the correct one. If someone mentioned a location incorrectly, it would adjust it with a casual tone. At first glance, it looked like normal internet behavior. But when the corrections involved details that were never publicly shared, it became something else entirely. It became knowledge. One late afternoon, Mills stood behind the cyber analyst as she replayed the activity log. The account had been active at odd hours, often late at night or early in the morning. It rarely posted during the day. When it did, it used public Wi-Fi networks, cafes, libraries, transit stations, places where people blended into crowds. Whoever this was understood how to stay invisible. Outside the station, the story was growing larger by the hour. News channels ran segments about the dangers of oversharing online. True crime creators uploaded videos analyzing Lena's posts frame by frame. Comment sections filled with theories, accusations, and fae. People began checking their own profiles, deleting old posts, turning accounts private. The killer, meanwhile, watched it all unfold. Late that night, the mysterious account became active again. This time, it commented on a trending news post about Lena's murder. The article mentioned that authorities believed the crime happened around midnight. The reply appeared minutes later. It was earlier than that. No explanation. No emotion. The problem was that the official time of death had never been released. Detective Mills felt a tight knot form in his stomach when he saw the screenshot. This wasn't just taunting anymore. This was confirmation. The person behind the account had inside knowledge. Within hours, the comment was deleted, but it was too late. The police had saved everything. And so had the internet. Pressure mounted quickly. The mayor's office demanded updates. Media outlets requested interviews. The police department faced criticism for allowing a potential killer to communicate freely online. Behind closed doors, Mills argued against shutting the account down. His talking, Mills said during a tense meeting. As long as he's talking, he's making mistakes. Some officers disagreed. They worried the account was inspiring copycats or causing public panic. But Mills knew something others didn't. This person didn't want chaos. They wanted control. Every comment was placed carefully. Every word chosen with intention. The killer wasn't screaming for attention. They were whispering, knowing people would lean in to listen. As days passed, something unexpected happened. The account's behavior changed. It stopped commenting on Lena's posts. Instead, it began responding to people talking about her. On one post, a user wrote, "It's scary how someone could watch her for so long." The account replied, "Longer than you think." On another, someone guessed the killer might have been a stranger. The reply came quickly. "Not a stranger. Just unnoticed." Each response sent a chill through those who read it. The killer wasn't hiding anymore. They were shaping the narrative, correcting assumptions, guiding public perception. It felt like a conversation, and everyone was participating without realizing it. Inside the cybercrime office, analysts worked around the clock. They studied language patterns, word choices, timing. They compared the writing style to known offenders. They looked for emotional slips, anger, arrogance, fear. What they found was unsettling. The language was controlled, neutral, almost clinical. This wasn't someone acting on impulse. This was someone who had planned everything. Then came another discovery. The account had followed hundreds of people, mostly women, all within the same geographic area. Many of them posted daily routines, favorite cafes, gym schedules, and late-night thoughts. It was a digital map of habits and vulnerabilities. Social media hadn't just shown the killer who Lena was. It had shown him when she was alone. Detective Mills realized that Lena wasn't targeted because she was special. She was targeted because she was visible. As the investigation deepened, Mills couldn't shake a growing sense of dread. If this account had interacted with 3 victims, how many others were being watched right now? The thought that someone could sit quietly behind a screen, studying lives in fragments, choosing moments to step into reality, felt more terrifying than any physical crime scene. Late one evening, just as the department was preparing to request a court order to shut the account down, a new post appeared. It wasn't a comment. It was an original post. A black image with white text. Truth always leaks. Even online. Below it was a location tag. The room went silent when the alert popped up on the screen. Every officer leaned closer, knowing this was different. This wasn't commentary. This was an invitation. Or a warning. Detective Mills grabbed his coat. The digital trail had stopped being a trail. It was now leading somewhere very real. The location tag from the mysterious post changed everything. What had lived only on screens was suddenly anchored to a real place. And that shift carried a quiet sense of danger. Detective Aaron Mills felt it as he rode in the back of the unmarked car, watching streetlights blur past the window. The city looked ordinary, unaware that something dark had just surfaced beneath its routine. The location led them to a downtown train station, one of the busiest in Brookhaven. During the day it was crowded and loud, but at night it became a hollow space filled with echoes and shadows. The police arrived quickly, sealing off the area before curious onlookers could gather. Mills stepped onto the platform, his footsteps echoing as officers spread out. At first, nothing seemed unusual. No person waiting. No obvious threat. Just rows of lockers along the far wall, each one dented and scratched from years of use. Then an officer called out softly. One locker was slightly open. Inside, they found a small black backpack. The air felt heavier as Mills unzipped it. There was no weapon, no blood, nothing dramatic. Just a phone. Lena Brooks' phone. Confirmed by the cracked case and the faded sticker on the back, visible in her old photos. The killer hadn't destroyed it. He had placed it here. That choice mattered. The phone was powered off, but when the technicians later turned it on, something immediately stood out. Lena had not been silent before her death. She had been writing, drafting messages, saving thoughts she never shared. And among those drafts was something that sent a cold wave through the investigation. But before that discovery reached the public, another person came forward. Her name was Maya Reynolds. Maya had been Lena's closest friend for nearly 10 years. They met in college, survived bad jobs together, shared apartments, heartbreaks, and long conversations that stretched past midnight. When Lena moved into her own place, Maya stayed close. They texted daily, sometimes hourly. Maya arrived at the police station with red eyes and shaking hands. She looked exhausted, like someone who hadn't slept since the news broke. Detective Mills met her in a quiet interview room, offering water she barely touched. At first, Maya repeated what she had already told officers days earlier. Lena had seemed stressed. She mentioned feeling watched but never explained why. She didn't name anyone. She didn't ask for help directly. Then Maya paused. "There's something I didn't show you," she said softly. Her voice cracked as she reached into her bag and pulled out her phone. She opened a message thread and handed it to Mills. The message had been sent 2 weeks before Lena died. "If anything happens to me, check the comments. He likes to correct people." Mills read it twice. "Did you ask her what she meant?" he asked. Maya shook her head slowly. "I thought she was being paranoid. She did that sometimes when she was anxious. I told her to take a break from social media." She looked down, guilt-heavy in her expression. "I wish I had taken it seriously." That single message shifted the case in a way no location tag ever could. Lena hadn't just suspected danger. She had identified behavior. She had noticed patterns. She had been watching the watcher. The cybercrime unit immediately revisited every comment connected to the mysterious account. This time, they weren't just looking for threats. They were looking for corrections. The results were disturbing. On post after post, the account adjusted details, times, places, small facts that most people would ignore. It did so calmly, politely, as if participating in a normal discussion. But when placed against the message Lena sent Maya, the intent became clear. The killer wasn't correcting people to help them. He was asserting ownership over the truth. One example stood out sharply. On a post where someone speculated about Lena's routine, guessing she worked late nights, the account replied, "She usually went to bed before midnight." That detail had never been shared publicly. Yet phone data confirmed it was true. The killer wasn't guessing. He knew. As the analysis continued, Mills felt an unsettling realization take shape. The account wasn't just leaving clues accidentally. It was communicating with Lena directly through public spaces, confident that she would see it and understand. This wasn't a game for attention. It was a private conversation happening in plain sight. That night, the forensic team finally accessed the full contents of Lena's phone. Her call logs showed nothing unusual. No threatening messages. No strange contacts. But then they opened the drafts folder. There were dozens of unfinished posts and notes. Thoughts Lena had typed but never shared. Some were ordinary. Others revealed growing fear. "I don't know if I'm imagining this or not," one note read. "But the same account keeps showing up." Another said, "I think someone is tracking my routines through my posts." Then there was the final draft. It was timestamped less than 12 hours before her death. "I know who you are. I see you watching my stories. You sit 3 rows behind me at the cafe. You think I don't notice. You're wrong." Attached to the draft was a photo. The image was dark and slightly blurred, taken discreetly from an angle. It showed the inside of a cafe. Most of the people were out of focus, but one figure stood out. A man sitting alone, looking down at his phone. His face was partially hidden by shadow. Lena had been close to exposing him. The question was whether he knew that. Detective Mills stared at the image for a long time. This wasn't paranoia. This was observation. Lena had recognized someone from the digital world in real life. She had connected the online presence to a physical person, and she had been confident enough to confront him, even if only through a post she never published. That confidence may have cost her life. As news of the Locker discovery and the draft messages began to leak, public reaction exploded. People were no longer just frightened. They were angry. Comment sections filled with demands for justice. Some accused the police of moving too slowly. Others blamed social media platforms for allowing anonymous accounts to thrive. True crime creators dissected Lena's drafts, reading them aloud in videos with dramatic pauses. Viewers leaned closer, feeling like they were uncovering the truth alongside the detectives. But there was something none of them knew. The killer was watching those videos too. Late that night, as Mills sat alone reviewing the case, a notification appeared. The mysterious account had posted again. This time, there was no riddle, no philosophical line, just a sentence. She noticed too late. The post was deleted within minutes, but it was enough. The killer had confirmed what Mills already feared. Lena had confronted him, even if silently, and in doing so, she had forced his hand. The investigation intensified. Officers began pulling surveillance footage from cafes near Lena's apartment. They searched for a man who sat alone, always in the same area, always on his phone. Someone who blended in so well that no one remembered him. Hours of footage passed with no clear match. The city was full of people who looked ordinary. Then one analyst paused a frame. There, in the background of a cafe video from 3 weeks earlier, sat a man matching the photo from Lena's draft. Same posture, same jacket, same quiet focus on his phone. He appeared again in footage from another day. And another. Always 3 rows back. Always watching. As the image sharpened, Mills felt a grim sense of progress. They were closer now. Closer than Lena had been. But something still didn't sit right. The killer's online behavior was bold, almost proud. Yet the man in the footage looked withdrawn, careful, almost invisible. It felt like 2 different personalities sharing one identity. That contradiction lingered in Mills' mind as the team prepared to release the image to the public for identification. Before they could, Another message arrived from Maya. She asked to speak to the police again. When Mills met her, she seemed calmer than before. Too calm. There's something else Lena told me, Maya said quietly. Something I didn't understand at the time. Mills waited. She said, if he stops commenting, it means he's nearby. The room felt suddenly colder. If Lena was right, then the silence online after the locker discovery meant only one thing. The killer wasn't hiding behind a screen anymore. He was closer than anyone realized. The stillness that followed Maya's final sentence felt heavier than any noise. Detective Aaron Mills understood the implication immediately. If Lena believed silence meant proximity, then the sudden quiet from the mysterious account was not a relief. It was a warning. The killer had stepped out of the digital shadows and into the physical world, confident enough to stop speaking. The investigation shifted again, this time with urgency sharpened by Faye. Police analysts worked through the night enhancing the blurred cafe photo Lena had taken. Every pixel mattered. They adjusted contrast, sharpened edges, and isolated the figure in the background. Slowly, a clearer image emerged. The man was in his early 30s, pale complexion, dark hair cut short, wearing plain clothes that blended into any crowd. His face carried no strong expression. He looked ordinary in a way that made him forgettable. And that was exactly what terrified Mills. Ordinary people didn't stand out in memories. They passed through spaces without leaving impressions. They were the hardest to track. Using the improved image, detectives reviewed hours of security footage from cafes, libraries, and public spaces near Lena's apartment. The same man appeared repeatedly, always alone, always sitting where he could see entrances and exits. He never stayed too long. He never interacted with anyone. He simply watched and left. Patterns began to form. He visited places Lena posted about online. A cafe she tagged in a morning photo. A bookstore she mentioned loving in a caption. A park bench visible in one of her stories. The timeline matched too closely to be chance. Social media had given him a schedule, and he followed it patiently. Facial recognition software was run through local databases, but no immediate matches came back. The man had no criminal record, no outstanding warrants. On paper, he didn't exist as a threat. That made him more dangerous. 2 days later, a break came from an unexpected place. A transit employee reviewing footage from the train station locker remembered seeing a man lingering nearby the night the phone was left. He described someone quiet, average height, wearing a dark jacket. He didn't seem nervous, just focused. The footage showed the man's face more clearly than before. This time, the software found a match. His name was Ethan Cole. 34 years old. Data analyst. Lived alone in a small apartment less than 3 miles from Lena. No criminal history. No complaints from neighbors. He paid his bills on time and showed up to work every day. To anyone who knew him casually, Ethan Cole was invisible. When police searched Ethan's public social media profiles, they found nothing alarming. His accounts were clean and carefully curated. Photos of city skylines. Plates of food. Occasional motivational quotes about discipline and focus. He didn't overshare. He didn't post emotional captions. He didn't tag locations in real time. He looked like the opposite of someone reckless enough to leave clues. But when investigators dug deeper into his activity, the mask slipped. Ethan followed hundreds of women, most of them local. He rarely liked their photos, rarely commented, but records showed he watched almost every story they posted. He never missed one. His online presence was passive, quiet, and constant. He was observing, not participating. A search warrant was issued for Ethan's apartment. Detective Mills led the team himself, feeling a strange calm settle over him as they climbed the stairs. This was the kind of place where truth hid behind closed doors. Ethan wasn't home when they arrived. Inside, the apartment was clean, almost empty of personality. Neutral furniture. No family photos. No clutter. The kitchen was spotless, unused. The bedroom held nothing more than a neatly made bed and a desk facing the wall. It looked like a place designed not to be remembered. Then they opened the closet. Inside were boxes stacked carefully, each labeled with dates. When the first box was opened, the room went silent. Inside were printed screenshots of social media profiles. Names written neatly at the top of each page. Captions highlighted. Comments circled in red pen. Lena's name appeared in multiple boxes. Detective Mills felt a chill as he flipped through the pages. Ethan had documented routines. Work schedules guessed from post timing. Cafes frequented. Emotional states inferred from captions. He had written notes in the margins. Small observations that revealed obsession masked as analysis. She posts when anxious. Predictable schedule. Feels safe online. This wasn't random curiosity. This was research. In another box, they found notebooks filled with handwriting. Page after page of thoughts about visibility, control, and truth. Ethan wrote about how people believed they were alone when scrolling through their phones, unaware of how much they revealed. He described social media as the most honest version of a person. And then there were the comments. Ethan had printed copies of the mysterious account's comments, treating them like trophies. Each one annotated with why it was posted, what reaction it caused, and how long it took for people to notice. He wasn't just watching reactions. He was studying them. When Ethan was arrested later that evening at his workplace, he didn't resist. He didn't ask why. He looked almost relieved. As officers placed him in handcuffs, he glanced at Detective Mills and smiled faintly. "I told them the truth was online," he said calmly. The interrogation room felt small with Ethan inside it. He sat straight, hands folded, eyes alert. He answered questions politely, thoughtfully. He admitted to running the account, admitted to following Lena online, admitted to leaving comments. But when the conversation turned to murder, his tone changed. "I didn't kill her," he said. "I watched her. I understood her. But I didn't touch her." Mills leaned forward. "You left her phone in a locker." Ethan nodded. "So you would find what she left behind." "So you could guide the story," Mills said. Ethan smiled again, faint and controlled. Stories guide themselves. Despite the evidence, something about Ethan's confidence unsettled Mills. He wasn't panicked. He wasn't defensive. He spoke like someone who believed the truth would eventually be understood. Forensic timelines were reviewed again, this time with extreme precision. Ethan's work record showed him logged into his office system during the estimated time of Lena's death. Security cameras confirmed his presence in the building. He hadn't left until after sunrise. It didn't make sense. The comments posted during the window of Lena's murder had come from the same account Ethan admitted to running. But he couldn't have been posting them at that time. Unless he wasn't alone. The investigation took another sharp turn. A second device was discovered hidden inside the train station locker, wedged behind a panel most people would never notice. It was a tablet. On it were login credentials for the same account, saved and active. 2 devices. 2 access points. When technicians traced the IP activity, they expected more public Wi-Fi locations. Instead, one address stood out clearly. A private residence. The address belonged to Maya Reynolds. Detective Mills felt the ground shift beneath him. Maya had been there from the beginning. She had cried in the interview room. She had shared Lena's final message. She had helped connect dots that no one else could see. Or maybe she had been guiding them all along. When officers arrived at Maya's apartment, she didn't run. She didn't argue. She opened the door slowly, eyes already red, as if she had been expecting this moment. Inside her apartment, they found confirmation. The tablet's charging cable matched one on her desk. Browser history showed logins to the account during the hours Ethan had been at work. Maya sat down as if the strength had left her body. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she whispered. Under questioning, the truth finally came out, messy and painful. Maya and Ethan had met years earlier in an online forum dedicated to discussing human behavior. What began as conversations about psychology slowly shifted into something darker. They shared ideas about control, attention, and how easily people revealed themselves online. Ethan liked to watch. Maya liked to act. When Lena began noticing Ethan, when she started connecting the online presence to a real person, Maya panicked. Lena wasn't just a friend. She was a risk. Maya knew Lena's routines better than anyone. She had keys to her apartment from years earlier. She knew when Lena would be alone. The murder wasn't impulsive. It was calculated. Ethan left clues because he wanted recognition. Maya let him because she wanted someone else to take the spotlight. Each believed they were smarter than the other. Each believed they were in control. They were both wrong. As Maya was taken away, Detective Mills stood alone in the hallway, replaying every conversation in his mind. The tears, the concern, the helpful hints. It had all been real, and none of it had been honest. Lena had trusted the wrong person in two different worlds. The face behind the screen had been closer than anyone imagined, and the final chapter of the story was about to unfold. The courtroom was silent in a way that felt unnatural, as if even the air understood the weight of what was about to be said. Rows of journalists filled the benches behind the wooden barrier, notebooks ready, cameras forbidden but imaginations already racing. Outside, the world waited for a simple ending to a complicated story. Inside, Detective Aaron Mills knew there would be nothing simple about it. Ethan Cole and Maya Reynolds sat at opposite ends of the room. They did not look at each other. They did not need to. Everything that had once connected them had already been exposed, stripped of mystery, laid bare under fluorescent lights and legal language. The case against them was unlike anything Brookhaven had seen before. There was physical evidence, yes, but much of the story lived in digital fragments. Comments, drafts, timestamps, location tags, words typed casually and never meant to be read this way. The prosecution began by telling Lena Brooks' story, not as a victim, but as a person. They described her life, her wake, her friendships, her habit of speaking openly online because she believed connection was safer than silence. They spoke about how she trusted both her screen and the people beyond it. Then they turned to the night she died. Maya had entered Lena's apartment using an old key she never returned. Lena had not been afraid at first. The evidence suggested they talked. There were 2 cups on the table. One still held the faint smell of tea. There were no signs of struggle because there had been no sudden attack. Lena trusted Maya. That trust was used against her. The exact details of the murder were kept brief for the court, but the truth was clear. Lena realized too late that the danger she sensed online had been closer than she ever imagined. By the time she understood, there was no time left to act on it. Ethan's role was different but no less disturbing. The prosecution showed how he built the digital stage on which everything unfolded. He watched. He documented. He commented. He corrected details because it gave him a sense of ownership over the truth. He didn't see people as lives. He saw them as patterns. When confronted with the full scope of evidence, Ethan remained calm. His lawyers argued that he never physically touched Lena, that his crime was observation, not action. But the court saw something else. They saw intent. They saw encouragement. They saw a man who created an environment where violence felt inevitable. Maya's defense collapsed under the weight of her own messages. Private conversations revealed jealousy, fear of exposure, and resentment that Lena had begun to pull away. The friendship had not ended loudly. It had faded quietly, and that quiet terrified Maya more than anger ever could. During her testimony, Maya finally looked at Ethan. "You said it would just be online," she said, voice shaking. "You said no one would get hurt." Ethan didn't respond. He didn't need to. His silence said enough. The trial lasted weeks, but public opinion had already settled. Social media exploded with debates, breakdowns, and anger. People analyzed their own online habits, realizing how much of themselves they had handed over to strangers without a second thought. Some defended Ethan, claiming he was being punished for thoughts rather than actions. Others saw him as just as guilty as Maya, the architect of a system that rewarded watching without accountability. The verdict came on a gray afternoon. Maya Reynolds was found guilty of murder. Ethan Cole was found guilty of conspiracy and criminal facilitation. As the judge read the sentences, neither reacted. Maya stared straight ahead, tears sliding silently down her face. Ethan listened with the same calm expression he had worn since the day of his arrest, as if this ending had always been part of the plan. But for Detective Mills, the case did not end with a verdict. In the weeks that followed, he couldn't shake the feeling that something larger had been revealed. Lena's story was not unique because of how she died, but because of how clearly it showed a new kind of danger. One that did not break down doors or leave obvious threats. One that waited patiently, gathering information offered freely. Mills returned to Lena's apartment one final time before it was emptied. The space felt different now. Lighter, but emptier too. He stood by the window where she had taken her final photo of the rainy street. The city below moved on, unaware of how close it had been to something worse. On Lena's desk, the notebook with the faint pencil writing had been returned to her family. Mills remembered the sentence written there. So simple and so easy to overlook. Check the comments. That sentence became the unofficial title of internal reports, seminars, and warnings shared among law enforcement agencies across the country. Lena's case was studied not just as a crime, but as a lesson. Social media platforms faced intense scrutiny. New policies were announced. Anonymous accounts were restricted. Location tagging came with stronger warnings. None of it felt like enough. Because the truth was uncomfortable. The platforms didn't create Ethan or Maya. They just gave them tools. Months later, a documentary crew interviewed Detective Mills for the first time. He spoke slowly, choosing his words carefully, aware that every sentence would reach thousands of people. This wasn't about technology, he said. It was about access. People forget that when they share their lives online, they are not just talking to friends. They are talking to anyone who's listening. When asked what haunted him most about the case, Mills didn't mention the murder itself. He talked about Lena's draft post, the one she never got to share. She tried to warn herself, he said. She noticed patterns. She trusted her instincts. But she thought understanding the danger was enough. Sometimes it isn't. The documentary ended with Lena's voice, taken from an old video she had posted years before. In it, she laughed softly and said, "I like sharing my life. It makes me feel less alone." That line stayed with viewers long after the screen went dark, because the final reveal of the case was not just who killed Lena Brooks. It was how easily someone could step into her life without ever being invited. Ethan watched through screens. Maya stood beside her. And Lena, like so many others, never imagined that the comments she scrolled past each day were quietly writing the last chapter of her story. The city of Brookhaven returned to normal. Cafes reopened. Trains ran on schedule. New faces replaced old ones in apartment windows. But something had shifted beneath the surface. People paused longer before posting. They questioned who was watching. They learned, too late for Lena but not for themselves, that visibility is not the same as safety. And somewhere, buried in archived posts and forgotten comment threads, the clues still existed. Not because the killers wanted them hidden, but because they believed no one would ever look closely enough. Lena did. And that is why her story did not disappear with her. It became a warning written across timelines, feeds, and screens everywhere. A reminder that in a world where everyone is connected, being seen does not always mean being known. And sometimes, the most dangerous stranger is the one who never says a word until it's already too late.